You're tuning into Black and White Sports on YouTube. The no-holds-barred truth on sports. The main event starts.
All right, Black and White Sports supporters. Well, my goodness. USA Basketball has posted a roster for the U.S. Basketball Training Camp. Caitlin Clark is not on there. Many fans have noticed this, by the way. Angel Reese is not on here. Oddly enough,
the roster dropped and the world stopped. Caitlin Clark, the undisputed face of the game and reigning MVP, was nowhere to be found. But the real shocker wasn't just who was missing, it was who was actually on the list. Paige Bueckers is now standing in the middle of a massive firestorm that has her in total panic mode. This isn't just a training camp invite, it's a loud, clear signal that the hierarchy of USA Basketball is being shredded in real time. The silence from the Clark camp is deafening, while Paige is left holding a ticket that feels more like a target than a reward.
Many fans have noticed this, by the way. Angel Reese is not on here. Oddly enough, no fans have noticed that. Funny how that is. Paige Bueckers is on here. Now, Rhodes, does that mean Caitlin Clark's not going to make the team? I don't think that's what that means. I don't. I think, and maybe this would go for Angel too. Who the hell knows?
Fans across the globe blinked twice, thinking it was a glitch or a cruel April Fool's joke. How do you leave the biggest ratings draw in history off the national team training camp roster? It makes zero sense on paper, but the deeper you look, the more it feels like a calculated power move. While everyone expected Caitlin to be the first name on that list, the selection committee chose a path that has sparked absolute chaos. This snub isn't just a minor oversight, it's a massive statement that has the entire basketball world questioning the integrity of the selection process.
I mean, when is this? April 1 through the 3rd. More strange scratching your head decisions made by coaches after a chaotic offseason. What are we doing exactly? Stephanie White, looking at you. So, a lot of response here. Where's Caitlin Clark? A lot of, hey, yeah. What are we doing?
But here is where the plot thickens and Paige Bueckers enters the danger zone. Why is she there when other stars who played in Puerto Rico are staying home? If superstars like Kelsey Plum and Asia Wilson are locks, why is Paige being forced to audition yet again? It looks like she is fighting for her life to secure a spot that many thought was already hers. The pressure on her shoulders right now is immense, as she is essentially being used as the benchmark against which everyone else is measured. She is in panic mode because the stakes have never been higher for her future.
Oh, a lot of response here. Where's Caitlin Clark? A lot of, hey, yeah. What are we doing? What the F? Don't piss me off. Where the hell is Caitlin? Why ain't Caitlin gonna be there? I feel like Clark is already a lock. Where's Caitlin Clark? Damn, no CC. Boy, people saw this quick, fast, and in a hurry. Paige is there, but no Caitlin. No Caitlin Clark, no Aaliyah Boston. Aaliyah Boston, you
can't talk about this roster without mentioning the elephant in the room, the UConn influence. People are calling it the UConn Mafia for a reason, and with Sue Bird as a managing director, the optics are getting messy. Paige being selected while Caitlin is left in the cold creates a narrative that is hard to shake. Is this a case of protecting their own, or is there a genuine basketball reason for this divide? The fans aren't buying the official excuses, and the tension between these two fan bases is reaching a boiling point that could explode at any moment in Phoenix.
Hey, Caitlin Clark. No Caitlin Clark, nobody cares. Caitlin better make the final team. Shit, if she don't make the team, look out. The backlash will be gargantuan. Gargantuan. Now, here's the thing. Look, Asia's going to be on the team. Sabrina's going to be on the team. The names you know are going to be on the team, right? Caitlin was just in Puerto Rico. All these other, Kelsey Plum, and all, they were just in Puerto Rico. I don't think they're.
The official line might be that players who went to Puerto Rico are being rested, but that logic falls apart the second you see Paige's name. She was right there in San Juan, going 5-0 with the squad, yet she's the one called back for another look. It suggests that the coaching staff isn't fully sold on her yet, or worse, she's being put in a position where she has to prove she belongs over a generational talent like Clark. This isn't a vacation for Paige. It's a high-stakes survival camp where one bad pass could cost her an Olympic dream that seemed like a sure thing.
Now, that raises questions. Why is Paige Bueckers there? All right, that's the one that's people are trying to figure out. Well, Paige is there. Why has she got to be there? If all these other folks aren't there, that leads you to believe that Paige Bueckers in jeopardy of not making this team. That these coaches, these decision makers, Sue Bird included, are trying to make a decision. Now, you heard that name I just brought up. Sue Bird. Now, what is Sue Bird part of?
Interestingly, Caitlin isn't the only superstar missing, but she's the only one people are rioting over. Angel Reese is also absent from this roster, yet the silence regarding her omission is striking. It shows just how much the Caitlin Clark effect has taken over the sport. When CC is left out, it's a national emergency. When others are left out, it's just business as usual. This disparity in fan reaction only adds more fuel to the fire, making the decision to include Paige even more scrutinized by those who feel the entire selection system is rigged from the top down.
Of the Yukon Mafia. That's right. The Yukon Mafia. Paige Bueckers. Now, what is she part of? The Yukon Mafia. I'm just bringing that up. Now, if you want to go real conspiracy theory, what if Caitlin Clark hasn't made this team? And what if Paige Bueckers has made this team? And look, we all know after Caitlin Clark was just the MVP, holy hell. If that happens, we will go all the way back to...
The coaching staff, led by Carol Lawson and Stephanie White, is under a microscope like never before. These are names that have dodged the WNBA spotlight to stay in the collegiate and national ranks, and their decisions are being labeled as head-scratching at best. Why are they making these chaotic choices during one of the most important off-seasons in history? Stephanie White in particular is facing heat for the direction this camp is taking. It feels like a ship without a rudder, and the players like Paige are the ones who have to navigate these incredibly choppy waters.
Paige Bueckers has made this team. And look, we all know after Caitlin Clark was just the MVP, holy hell. If that happens, we will go all the way back to a video I made 3 or 4 months ago where I said, beware of the Yukon agenda for Team USA. I don't think that's the case here. My gut feeling is Caitlin Clark is on this team. I would guess Angel Reese is probably on this team. All right. Don't know for...
Being on this roster isn't necessarily a badge of honor. For Paige, it might be a warning sign. It puts her squarely on the cut line, fighting against veterans and rising stars for a handful of spots. If she was a lock, she wouldn't be in Phoenix on April 1st. She would be resting and preparing for the grind ahead. Instead, she's being asked to show up and prove her worth all over again. The anxiety of being in that position, knowing that the world is watching and waiting for you to fail so they can complain about Caitlin, is enough to put anyone into a state of total panic. If Caitlin Clark doesn't make the final Olympic team, the backlash will be absolutely gargantuan. We are talking about a level of fan outrage that the WNBA and USA Basketball have never experienced. The league is currently riding a wave of popularity entirely fueled by Clark's rise, and to bench her for the Olympics would be like sabotaging their own success. The decision makers are playing a dangerous game of chicken with the fans, and right now the fans are winning the war of words online. Every post by USA Basketball is currently flooded with one question: where is Caitlin? We also have to talk about the mystery surrounding Aaliyah Boston. Her injury status after the Unrivaled event remains a total black hole of information. She missed the action in Puerto Rico, and her absence from this training camp roster raises even more red flags for the Fever season. Is she seriously hurt, or is she also a victim of this strange and inconsistent selection process? Without her in the mix, the front court dynamics change entirely, putting even more pressure on the guards like Paige to carry the load. The lack of transparency is making the conspiracy theories grow louder. While the vets are missing, the youngsters are moving in. Juju Watkins and Rickea Jackson are heading to Phoenix, representing a new guard that is hungry for a spot. For Paige, seeing these younger players get the call up while her peers are sidelined must be incredibly jarring. It creates a competitive environment that is less about team building and more about individual survival. Paige isn't just competing against the legends anymore. She's looking over her shoulder at the next generation that is coming for her spot with everything they've got during this April camp. Sue Bird's role in all of this cannot be understated. As a managing director, she has a massive say in the future of this program, but her deep ties to the UConn legacy make every move she makes look like a conflict of interest to the outside world. If Paige makes the team and Caitlin doesn't, the UConn agenda will be the only thing people talk about for the next 4 years. It puts Paige in an impossible situation where her success will always be questioned and her failures will be magnified. She's essentially becoming the face of a massive controversy she didn't even create. The camp in Phoenix is going to be a pressure cooker. 3 days of intense drills and scrimmages under the blazing heat, with the eyes of the selection committee burning holes in the back of every player's jersey. For someone like Paige, who has already dealt with significant injuries and a grueling college season, this is a physical and mental toll that shouldn't be ignored. She has to be perfect. One slip-up, one bad shooting night, and the narrative that she was only there because of her pedigree will become the dominant headline across every sports media outlet. The social media reaction has been brutal, with some fans even making low blows about Caitlin's personal life, suggesting she's too busy helping her boyfriend find a job to care about the camp. While that's obviously noise, it shows the toxic environment surrounding this roster reveal. When the biggest star is left off, the conversation turns ugly fast. Paige is caught in the crossfire of this toxicity, forced to represent a roster that half the fan base is currently rooting against. It's a lonely place to be when you should be celebrating a senior national team invite. How do you justify leaving a reigning MVP off any roster? That is the question that the USA Basketball coaches have yet to answer. Caitlin Clark has done everything asked of her and more, shattering records and bringing millions of new eyes to the sport. To suggest she needs another training camp to prove her worth is insulting to her talent. If she is already a lock, then why the secrecy? The lack of a clear explanation is what's driving the panic. It feels like the rules are being made up as they go along, and nobody knows who is actually safe on this team. Even the inclusion of players like Stephanie Dolson is causing confusion. Yes, she has the gold medal from the 3x3 circuit, but her presence on this specific roster, while others are missing, is just another puzzle piece that doesn't fit the logic. It feels like the committee is trying to honor the past while ignoring the reality of the present. This mix of 3x3 specialists, college stars, and a few middle-tier pros makes for a confusing camp dynamic. It's not the best of the best showcase fans were expecting. It's a chaotic experiment that could backfire spectacularly in Paris. Many fans were genuinely hoping this was an elaborate April Fool's joke. The timing of the announcement on April 1st was either incredibly tone-deaf or a deliberate attempt to soften the blow of a controversial decision. But as the hours pass and no gotcha post appears, the reality is sinking in. This is the roster, this is the plan, and for Paige Bueckers, this is the reality she has to live with. She is the one who has to show up in Phoenix and answer the questions that Caitlin Clark isn't there to answer for herself. The stakes for her career have never felt more fragile. The word danger isn't being used lightly here. Paige is in danger of becoming a lightning rod for all the frustration surrounding the USAB system. If she excels, people will say the deck was stacked in her favor. If she struggles, they will scream that Caitlin should have had her spot. There is no winning scenario for her in this specific camp environment. She is fighting for her life on the court while a PR war rages off of it. It's a mental burden that most college-aged athletes are never asked to carry, and it's clearly pushing her into a state of panic. If the logic is truly that the Puerto Rico squad is being rested, then why is Monique Billings there? Why is Ray Burrell there? They were both part of that 5-0 run. The inconsistency is what's driving the UConn Mafia narrative. It seems like certain players are given a pass while others are forced to grind, and the criteria for who gets which treatment is completely opaque. This lack of a level playing field is exactly what creates resentment within a locker room and among a fan base that is already on edge. The coaches are playing favorites, and everyone can see it. We are months away from the Olympics, and the team should be coalescing around its stars. Instead, we have a fractured roster and a confused public. The Olympic gold medal is the only standard for USA basketball, and anything less is a total failure. By snubbing the most electric player in the game, the committee is putting an immense amount of pressure on the players they did select to perform flawlessly. If this team stumbles in Paris, the decision to leave Clark home will be remembered as one of the greatest blunders in the history of international sports. Some insiders suggest this is just a wait-and-see strategy and that Caitlin will be added to the final list later. But why the drama? Why not just name the core group and be done with it? The unnecessary mystery is creating a circus atmosphere that distracts from the actual basketball. Paige is right in the center of that circus, trying to focus on her jumper while the tent collapses around her. She shouldn't be in panic mode, but given the circumstances, it's the only logical reaction to a situation that has spiraled out of control due to poor leadership. The narrative has shifted from who will win gold to who is being protected. This is a disastrous turn for a program that prides itself on excellence. When fans start looking for agendas instead of highlights, you've lost the plot. Paige Bueckers is a phenomenal talent who deserves her flowers, but she's being cast as a villain or a beneficiary of nepotism because of these bizarre roster choices. She has to find a way to block out the noise and play her game, but when the noise is this loud and the snub is this shocking, it's almost impossible to ignore the reality. Ultimately, this training camp will reveal more about the internal politics of USA basketball than it will about the players' actual skills. Whether Caitlin Clark is a lock or a victim of a snub, the damage to the public trust is already done. Paige Bueckers is heading into a firestorm, and her performance in Phoenix will determine if she can survive the UConn Mafia label. The game is changing, the fans are louder than ever, and the old guard better realize that the world is watching every single move they make. The era of secret decisions and favors is over.